Chapter 3658, Chapter 732, Celebrity Black Flame. Chapter 3658, Chapter 732, Celebrity Black Flame. Chapter 732, Celebrity Black Flame. TL Notes. Made affixed to Chapter 731, Original. Subsequently, Shifeng split Zero Wings members into 10 assault teams, making sure to evenly distribute Phoenix Rain and the other experts from his home god's domain across the 10 teams. Then, scattered the 10 teams across the Soul Lake. As for Shifeng himself, he hopped onto the Silver Wing with Zero Wing's main force members and flew to the border connecting the Soul Lake with the frontline maps. It was already known that the Holy Race Army was continuously gathering their forces at the border, so they would definitely find some enemies there. Edited. Subsequently, Shifeng had Phoenix Rain and the other players from his home god's domain form 9 assault teams and scattered them across the Soul Lake. Then, he hopped onto the Silver Wing with Zero Wing's main force members and flew to the border connecting the Soul Lake with the frontline maps. It was already known that the Holy Race Army was continuously gathering their forces at the border, so they would definitely find some enemies there. Basically, it means that Zero Wing has only formed 10 assault teams in total instead of 11. Upon receiving Shifeng's command, Fire Dance and the others promptly took action against the tents they were stalking. Although the advanced tents used by the 3 Holy Race Guilds were protected by an energy barrier that could normally withstand multiple Tier 6 attacks, Fire Dance and the others shattered the barriers standing in their way with just a single attack. Subsequently, before any of the Tier 6 Holy Race experts resting in the targeted tents could react, Fire Dance and the others swiftly brandished their daggers and short swords, stabbing their hearts and slitting their necks. Each of the targeted tents housed between 5 and 6 players. Even though Holy Race players inherently possessed a lot of HP and defense, they still died instantly to the attacks of Fire Dance and the others, which were close to rivaling the attacks of Tier 6 gods. In the blink of an eye, 6 advanced tents were ambushed, and 31 Tier 6 Holy Race experts were killed. Ambush. Human assassins are ambushing us. At the same time as Fire Dance and the others took action, a Tier 5 Holy Race expert patrolling nearby noticed their presence and promptly shouted to alert the others. All of the Holy Race experts assigned to this location were battlefield veterans. The moment they heard someone alerting an ambush, whether it was those resting in tents or chatting somewhere, everyone promptly dropped what they were doing and rushed in the direction of Zero Wing's 6 assassins. They even erected an energy barrier that covered the entire campsite, ensuring that the 6 assassins could not escape. Commander 6. Emergency. Zero Wing's members have ambushed us. We have activated the Holy Power Barrier and trapped them in the campsite already. A Tier 6 patrol reported urgently after entering the camp occupied by the 3 guilds' army commanders. Zero Wing ambushed us? Six Fingers couldn't help but be stunned by his subordinate's report. Are you sure you're not mistaken? It should be known that their 3 guilds already regarded Zero Wing as a fish on a chopping block. After all, according to their investigations, Zero Wing only had a little over 100 Tier 6 experts defending its resurrection camp. That was only a fraction of what they had. With so few Tier 6 experts, Zero Wing would have great difficulty even defending its resurrection camp. How could Zero Wing possibly take the initiative to attack their campsite, which had over 400 Tier 6 experts? However, before the Tier 6 patrol could answer 6 Fingers, Locust had already put away the tent, revealing the sight of the aforementioned holy energy barrier shattering and several dozen figures descending from the sky. Black Flame. That person is Zero Wing's guild leader Black Flame. The instant the several dozen figures appeared in the sky, many of the Holy Race players in the campsite immediately recognized Shifeng and began shouting frantically. It was like Shifeng was a candle in the dark, his presence being extraordinarily eye-catching. Since when did you become so famous among the Holy Race, guild leader? Gentle Snow asked. She couldn't help but be stunned when she saw the Holy Race army down below behaving like a bunch of mortals who had just seen God descend upon them. It should be known that just a moment ago, the Holy Race players in the campsite were in the middle of encircling Fire Dance's group of 6. Yet, now, all of them were focusing their attention on Shifeng, behaving as if they had completely forgotten about the 31 Tier 6 experts Fire Dance's group had killed. I have no idea. At this time, even Shifeng found this situation confusing. Did he really have such a striking appearance? It should be known that he was wearing a dark grey cloak that hid his equipment and weapons. He did not reveal any distinguishing features. Paired with his face, he should look the most inconspicuous of everyone on his team. However, what Shifeng did not know was that after he had killed Chalk Splendor, many holy race powers had deemed him an expert worthy of the Transcendent List. Meanwhile, the Transcendent List was a ranking list known by all among the holy race. Even those who merely have the potential to enter the Transcendent List would have their faces memorized by most holy race players. Hence, the three guilds' members had long memorized Shifeng's appearance. And as experts who had developed their minds to a great extent, it was very easy to single out Shifeng from his teammates. Tier 5 members, stay at least 1,000 yards away from Black Flame. Locust of the Leisure Prison Guild commanded sternly upon learning of Shifeng's presence. He's already stronger than Tier 6 gods. Those weaker than Tier 6 gods should prioritize targeting Zero Wing's other expert. At Locust's command, all the holy race experts obeyed without hesitation, solemn expressions on their faces. No one dared to underestimate Shifeng. Treating him like a world boss, they had only their core experts face him head-on while everyone else supported them from behind. In only a moment, 23 level 180+, Tier 6 holy race experts stepped forward, each strong enough to rival the human race's Tier 6 gods. They then charged toward Shifeng's landing location. As for the other Tier 6 holy race experts, they charged at the other Zero Wing members. "How cautious of you all," Shifeng said, still slightly surprised as he looked at the 23 experts standing before him. As far as he could remember, holy race experts held great contempt for human experts. If holy race experts encountered human experts out in the fields, most would choose to fight one-on-one duels, even when they had the numerical advantage. Yet, the campsite's 23 strongest holy race experts had chosen to attack him together. This was a situation far beyond the norm. Cautious. Looking down at Shifeng's comparatively small figure, Six Fingers grimly said, "I don't think so. When dealing with limit breakers like yourself, no amount of caution is excessive." In the holy race's greater god's domain, the term limit breaker was used to describe monstrously powerful players. More specifically, limit breakers were all monsters capable of ranking on the Transcendent List. Previously, Six Fingers was partially convinced by Locust's opinion that Shifeng had only managed to kill Chalk Splendor thanks to the assistance of the 7 Luminaries Alliance's Chosen One. However, after seeing Shifeng's extraordinary use of the surrounding energy, Six Fingers immediately understood that Shifeng wasn't someone who needed to rely on others to kill Chalk Splendor. If they wished to go against such a monster, they would have to gather all of their campsite strength to have any chance at victory. "Locust and I will distract him, 6, Myriad Blades whispered to Six Fingers and the others as she cautiously approached Shifeng with Locust. "Take any opportunity you see, even if it means our deaths." After saying so, Myriad Blades unsheathed her sabers and charged at Shifeng. TL notes. 1. They still died instantly to the attacks of Fire Dance and the others, which were close to rivaling the attacks of Tier 6 gods. In this scenario, I believe that the attacks of the level 200+, Tier 5 assassins rival the attacks of Tier 6 gods that are at Fire Dance and Hidden Souls level. So, somewhere around level 180, considering that Gentle Snow is level 180 as of Chapter 723. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 3659, Chapter 733, Black Flame's Sword. Chapter 3659, Chapter 733, Black Flame's Sword. Chapter 733, Black Flame's Sword. It'll all be up to you, 6. I doubt Myriad and I can create many opportunities. When Locust saw Myriad Blades charging at Shifeng, he put on a determined expression and raised the thorny wooden staff he wielded. Immediately, countless holy patterns started to form around him. "Don't worry. I understand." Six Fingers solemnly nodded. Logically, Six Fingers should have been the one to engage and distract Shifeng since his 10-meter-tall body would make him the best fit for melee combat out of everyone present. Yet, Myriad Blades and Locust had chosen to take on this role instead. As for why they had made such a decision, it was because Six Fingers owned an astonishingly destructive holy art called Heavenly Strike. Heavenly Strike was a mysterious holy art Six Fingers had found in an ancient ruin, and it could exhibit power rivaling holy ancestor-ranked holy arts. Paired with his fragmented divine artifact radiance, he could overwhelm the defenses of even ancient gods of the same level. Hence, Myriad Blades and Locust had chosen to create opportunities for him to land attacks on Shifeng. Otherwise, if they tried to trade blows with a limit breaker like Shifeng, the latter would eventually whittle them to death. At the same time as Six Fingers nodded, Myriad Blades brandished her sabers and summoned 1,000 holy armaments. These armaments came in various forms, such as sabers, spears, swords, axes, shields, and whips. Each armament had its respective strengths, and they all carried power at the Tier 6 God standard. When Myriad Blades willed all of these holy armaments to attack Shifeng, it was as if 1,000 Myriad Blades were attacking Shifeng together. Moreover, none of these holy armaments were restricted by HP, so they remained unfazed even when attacked. Fusion Holy Art, Thousandfold Mirage. Thousandfold Mirage allowed Myriad Blades to become a one-man legion, and it was the primary reason behind her confidence in challenging a Royal Powers Reserve candidate for the Transcendent list. In the meantime, the elegant Locust suddenly revealed a ferocious expression, his eyes turning crimson as the wooden staff he wielded merged with his body. His body also became withered like dead wood and shrunk by several sizes. Then, once his transformation was complete, he turned into a stream of light as he charged at Shifeng, his speed so fast that he could put Tier 6 assassins to shame. Fusion Holy Art, Sanguine Ascension. Sanguine Ascension was the ultimate desperation move Locust had developed by combining a holy art with one of his legacy skills. When used, it allowed his movement speed and attack speed to achieve a qualitative leap, and nobody could keep up with him under the same tier. However, in exchange for this overwhelming speed, he would fall into a heavily injured state for a considerable time after using the Fusion Holy Art. When Zero Wings members saw Myriad Blades and Locust's display of strength, they couldn't help but be shocked. Are those two monsters? Fervent Samsara was similarly shocked when he saw Myriad Blades' swarm of holy armaments and Locust's impossibly fast speed. Although he could keep up with Locust's speed thanks to his sixth sense, his body couldn't, especially not when Locust was constantly changing his attack and movement trajectories. As of present, Fervent Samsara was certain he stood no chance against Myriad Blades and Locust, even in one-on-one situations. Thousandfold Mirage and Sanguine Ascension? Is the other one Heavenly Strike? Shifeng suddenly thought of three names when he saw the moves executed by Myriad Blades and Locust. During the war between the two races in his previous life, many holy race experts had become famous in the human race's greater god's domain due to their feats. Among them, three were particularly outstanding, and they were Myriad Blades the Sky Pillar Saintus, Locust the Fleeting Wraith, and Heavenly Strike Six Fingers. Or, more specifically, their trademark moves were very well known. In the Sky Pillar Saintus's case, she had slaughtered an Apex Powers holy city with her thousandfold mirage. As for the Fleeting Wraith, he had single-handedly distracted Death Wind, one of Demon's Gate's 9 great experts. It should be known that Death Wind not only wielded a divine weapon but was also equipped with divine equipment. Under normal circumstances, even Shifeng would not dare to fight Death Wind for too long. Yet, Locust had distracted Death Wind for half a day and safely retreated. Similar to the other two, Six Fingers had accomplished an incredible feat that made him famous throughout the human race's greater god's domain. The feat in question involved killing one of the 7 Luminaries' alliance's taboo existences with one almighty strike from his hammer, which instantly scared the million-strong army led by said taboo existence into fleeing. In his previous life, Shifeng rather admired these three individuals. After all, these three individuals all dared to stand against the human race's apex powers by themselves. Only, he never thought he would face all three of them together right now. Black Flame. Let me see just how strong you are. Manipulating her holy armaments, Myriad Blades bombarded Shifeng from all sides. Although it was a chaotic bombardment with no skill involved, it was the most effective method to deal with limit breakers like Shifeng. Limit breakers of the human race were individuals who had gotten a hold of primordial god legacies and achieved strength beyond the limit in one aspect. When facing such overwhelming strength, techniques no longer mattered. In Myriad Blade's case, she could only rely on having an overwhelming numerical advantage to fight Shifeng. Die. Despite seeing Myriad Blade's bombardment, Locust did not hesitate to join the fight. With his focus on Shifeng's back, Locust kept moving around erratically in mid-air at extreme speeds. Even experts who had made significant progress in the extrasensory realm would have difficulty reacting to his movements. If Chalk Splendor was currently standing in Shifeng's position, even if he still had the Sunlight Blade with him, he would probably lose his life to the duo if he did not activate Sunlight Body preemptively. He might even die before he could even put up any form of defense. Bring it on. Seeing the display of raw power happening before him, Shifeng started to feel a sense of danger. Immediately, he unsheathed and brandished the Winter of Eternal Night and Shadow Incinerator. World of Frost. Scorching Flame. Swords Orbit. Flowing Light. Suddenly, Shifeng's level fell by 1, and 100 frost swords appeared around him. Although the frost swords were still vastly outnumbered by the holy armaments, when Shifeng executed Swords Orbit with them, the miniature stars they created instantly turned the tables on the holy armaments. Moreover, scorching flames enveloped each star, and the rotation of the stars created a bright and scorching galaxy within a 1,000-yard radius of Shifeng. Subsequently, scorching stars and holy armaments clashed, causing powerful explosions and creating cracks in the Eternal Realm space. Over 10,000 collisions took place in a mere moment, each collision sending a holy armament flying and leaving cracks in it. At the same time, Shifeng was constantly moving about in the air, and try as Locust might, he simply couldn't catch up to Shifeng's constantly shifting position. All the while, Myriad Blades and Locust saw their stamina and concentration draining rapidly because of their ultimate moves. How is this possible? Aren't limit breakers supposed to have exceeded the limit in only one aspect? Whether it was Myriad Blades or Locust, they couldn't help but be dumbfounded by this situation. Not only did they fail to match Shifeng in a clash of strength, but they also failed to match him in speed. For a moment, they even wondered if Shifeng was human. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 3660, Chapter 734, One-Hit Azura. Chapter 3660, Chapter 734, One-Hit Azura. Chapter 734, One-Hit Azura. How strong? That's the Sky Pillar Saintus and Fleeting Wraith we are talking about. How can Black Flame still hold the upper hand when fighting both of them? Is that guy a monster? As the intensity of the battle between Shifeng and Myriad Blades and Locust grew, the Tier 6 Holy Race experts waiting for an opportunity to strike couldn't help but be astonished. They had heard of Black Flame before. They also understood how powerful a limit breaker could be. However, it should be known that Myriad Blades and Locust were not a couple of nobodies in the Holy Race. Despite not being members of a royal power, they were strong enough to put up a fight against experts on the Transcendent list. If given the opportunity, they could very well become experts on the Transcendent list. Normally, if the two went all out and worked together, even divine artifact owners would have a headache dealing with them. Yet, Myriad Blades and Locust were being overwhelmed right now. Myriad Blades' holy armaments were constantly being struck down, while Locust couldn't even close the distance on Shifeng, let alone find an opportunity to attack him. They could only watch as Shifeng gradually wore down the holy armaments. Are you still not ready? 6. Myriad can't hold on for much longer, Locust said anxiously through the team chat when he saw that Myriad Blades could only use her holy armaments for defense and nothing else. Originally, Locust thought that with his extraordinary speed and reactions, paired with Myriad Blades' incredible control, Shifeng should be rendered helpless in no time. But now, whether it was the speed he prided himself in or Myriad Blades' incredible attack rate, both were inferior to Shifeng. Shifeng's physical parameters were simply monstrous. Now, only 6 seconds after their exchange began, they had already fallen into a complete disadvantage. In fact, he could already foresee Myriad Blade's holy armaments crumbling apart completely in a few seconds. Once that happened, it would take no more than an instant for him and Myriad Blades to die. "Don't worry. I'm ready," Six Fingers responded with a grim chuckle. "Don't fault me if you die." Upon hearing Six Fingers' response, Locust and Myriad Blades immediately noticed a gigantic phantom appearing 1,000 yards away from them. The phantom was in the image of Six Fingers, and it was several thousand meters tall. At this time, the phantom had already raised the mountainous hammer it wielded and smashed it down toward the area where they were fighting. As the hammer descended, it cast a dark shadow over a 1,000-yard radius. At the same time, Fervent Samsara and the other Zero Wing members, who were fighting against the Holy Race's Tier 6 experts in the distance, felt a chill run down their spines. The power of taboos. This was undoubtedly the power of taboos. The average Tier 6 player would be at risk of permanent death if they were so much as scratched by this attack, let alone getting hit directly. "Die!" Six Fingers bellowed with all his might as he glared at Shifeng. At the same time, the phantom hammer accelerated its descent even further. "Heavenly strike! Black flame! You'll be dying with us here." When Locust saw the descending hammer, he turned to look at Shifeng with a sneer on his face. Six Fingers' heavenly strike was not only powerful, but it also had a large attack radius. Even if Shifeng had astonishing speed, there was no way he could get out of Heavenly Strike's 1,000-yard AoE in time. Not to mention, he still needed to deal with their distraction. Boom! A dazzling beam of light shot into the sky, reaching a height of 10,000 meters before stopping. When the beam of light faded, the mountain the Holy Race Army had set up their campsite on had disappeared, and taking its place was a bottomless abyss. "Is this Lord Six Fingers' heavenly strike? Crap. Aren't we in the World Arc right now? How can an attack deform the World Arc's terrain to such an extent? I doubt even Black Flame can survive such a frightening strike." The three Holy Race Guild's members gasped when they saw the devastation caused by Six Fingers' heavenly strike. The World Arc was one of the few World Mode regional dungeons in the Eternal Realm. Its terrain was extremely sturdy, and even Tier 6 players would have difficulty damaging it. Yet, Six Fingers had erased an entire mountain in a single strike, effectively turning the entrance canyon into a basin. On top of that, he had also left behind a bottomless pit with a 1,000-yard radius. The power of his attack was simply unheard of. What a tough opponent Black Flame is. Had I come across him by myself, I would have no choice but to run. Looking at the smoke rising from the bottomless abyss before him, Six Fingers couldn't help but feel fortunate he had Myriad Blades and Locust to keep Shifeng distracted. Although Heavenly Strike had astonishing power, Six Fingers needed a long time to conjure the required phantom. Without someone to distract his targets for him, in the 6 seconds it took him to conjure his phantom, even Tier 5 experts could easily move out of his attack range, let alone Tier 6 experts. If his opponents were confident in their strength, they could even attack and kill him while he was occupied. And seeing Shifeng's astonishing speed and control, he did not doubt Shifeng could kill him in 6 seconds. While Six Fingers was thinking of commanding the surviving Tier 6 God-ranked experts to clean up the rest of Zero Wing's members, something amidst the dispersing smoke clouds caught his attention. Impossible. Six Fingers was dumbfounded by the sight before him. At this time, with one of his swords raised, Shifeng could be seen holding back the mountainous phantom hammer, thoroughly preventing it from descending any further. Not only that, but he still had over 95% of his HP remaining. He's not dead. How can he still be alive? The three Holy Race Guild's members who were just about to rejoice were similarly dumbfounded by this situation, none willing to believe what they were seeing. "Your attack is indeed extraordinary, but you chose the wrong opponent." Shifeng did not bother to offer any explanations when he saw Six Fingers' look of shock. While using the Winter of Eternal Night to hold back the phantom hammer, he swung the Shadow Incinerator at Six Fingers, who stood over 1,000 yards away. Third Sword, Holy Annihilation. Immediately, a tide of flames swept toward Six Fingers, the speed of the flames so fast that time in the surrounding area had seemingly stopped flowing as they moved. "I won't let you kill me that easily." Six Fingers was no ordinary Holy Race expert. Almost at the same time as Shifeng executed his attack, His powerful sixth sense made him lift his hammer to defend himself. Boom! The instant the scorching flames and hammer collided, Six Fingers' body flew away like a kite with its string severed, and his HP bar began to deplete at a visible rate. 60%. 30%. 10%. When Six Fingers crashed into the mountain on the other side of the former canyon, his HP fell to 0, and he wore an astonished look as his body gradually dispersed into particles of light. Guild leader. At this time, the 3 Holy Race Guild's members weren't the only ones in shock. Gentle Snow, Fervent Samsara, and the other Zero Wing members fighting against the Holy Race's Tier 6 experts were similarly dumbfounded. It should be known that even with their current strength, they wouldn't dare say they could defeat someone as mighty as Six Fingers. Yet, this seemingly mighty individual failed to survive even one attack from Shifeng. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 3661, Chapter 735, Beams of Destruction. Chapter 3661, Chapter 735, Beams of Destruction. Chapter 735, Beams of Destruction. Six Fingers is dead? Impossible. This is Six Fingers we are talking about. How can Lord Six Fingers die to one attack from a human swordsman? Could there be some kind of bug in the world arc? When the several hundred Tier 6 Holy Race experts present saw Six Fingers' body fading away, they couldn't help but be in disbelief. It was bad enough that Six Fingers' mighty heavenly strike had failed to kill Shifeng, but the fact that Six Fingers couldn't withstand one attack from Shifeng was truly beyond their comprehension. It even challenged their understanding of God's domain. If speaking purely in terms of strength, Six Fingers was second to only divine artifact users. His strength was so overwhelming that not even experts like Locust and Myriad Blades would dare to face him head-on. No matter how they thought about it, they simply couldn't understand how this situation had come to be. Don't just stand there. When Shifeng saw that Gentle Snow, Fervent Samsara, and the others were still in a daze, he quickly reminded them, the 3 army commanders have been eliminated, so quickly take care of the remaining Tier 6 Holy Race expert. We don't have much time to waste here. The Sun Dynasty's 3 subordinate guilds had mobilized nearly 300,000 players this time, of which about 1,500 were Tier 6 experts. Currently, these Tier 6 experts were scattered across the Soul Lake, so it was Zero Wing's best opportunity to eliminate them before the main battle. But now that they had attacked the entrance campsite, it went without saying news of their actions would reach the rest of the 3 Holy Race Guild's forces. If they wished to eliminate more Tier 6 experts before the main battle, they had to act quickly. Otherwise, once these Holy Race armies were prepared, the difficulty of dealing with them would increase exponentially. Upon hearing Shifeng's words, Gentle Snow, Fervent Samsara, and the others quickly snapped out of their daze and started killing the Tier 6 Holy Race experts. Out of all the Zero Wing members present, only Fiery Heart, who had just arrived in the Eternal Realm recently, remained unfazed by Shifeng's strength. Before Shifeng even voiced his reminder, she had already cast a Tier 5 curse at a group of level 180+, Tier 6 Holy Race experts. Although Six Fingers was astonishingly powerful, he was only a level 182 player. Even if he possessed strength superior to Tier 6 gods of the same level, it should be known that Shifeng could already contend with level 200, Tier 6 gods when he first returned to their home god's domain. Level 200 was a massive turning point in God's domain. Going from level 199 to level 200 would be akin to achieving a 1-tier advancement. So, even before Shifeng returned to their home god's domain, his strength was already superior to that of the current Six Fingers. After killing the first-generation Saint Eucharius, he had even leveled up to level 191, his basic attributes improving by 2 minor thresholds. In Shifeng's current state, his attack could cause even level 200, Tier 6 gods to stumble. So, Fiery Heart didn't find it surprising that Six Fingers had died so abruptly. While Zero Wing's members were cleaning up the Tier 6 Holy Race experts, someone from the 3 Holy Race Guilds quickly called for a retreat. Retreat. Retreat quickly. We are no match for Black Flame. Only by gathering all of our Tier 6 experts and using a large combination holy art can we fight him. Suddenly, all of the holy race experts present began to flee in all directions, nobody having any intention of fighting Shifeng's team to the death. Seeing this, Gentle Snow and the others experienced a headache. Setting aside the 30,000+ Tier 5 holy race experts, if the 400+ Tier 6 holy race experts were determined to flee, they wouldn't be able to prevent more than a few from escaping. Have the ship's spirit cannons finished charging, Rampant? When Shifeng saw the holy race experts scattering, he promptly posed a question to Rampant Blade, who had stayed behind to pilot the Silverwing. In reality, Shifeng was more than capable of killing Locust, Myriad Blades, and Six Fingers as soon as their fight began. The reason he didn't do so was out of concern that he might frighten the 3 Holy Race Guild's members into fleeing. If that happened, even he wouldn't be able to kill more than a couple of Tier 6 Holy Race experts before all of them escaped. Hence, before getting off the Silverwing, Shifeng had instructed Rampant Blade to begin charging the flying ship's 100 spirit destruction cannons and 8 floating spirit cannons. The attacks of the spirit destruction cannons and floating spirit cannons were destruction spells with massive AoEs. Although the power of these cannons was inferior to his attacks, it still wasn't something ordinary Tier 6 experts could afford to receive recklessly. If all 128 spirit cannons fired together, their combined effect would be many times greater than if he were to use Holy Annihilation or Dark Moon many times in quick succession. All 128 spirit cannons are fully charged, Guild Leader. Rampant Blade reported excitedly as he looked at the charging indicators on the 100 spirit destruction cannons and 28 floating spirit cannons. Good. Fire. Shifeng commanded without hesitation. Boom. 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 Immediately, all of the spirit destruction cannons and floating spirit cannons aboard the Silverwing fired simultaneously, each unleashing a beam covering a 3,000-yard radius onto the fleeing Holy Race players. If caught in the middle of these beams striking radius, not even Tier 6 players could run to safety in time, and they'd have no choice but to defend against the destructive beams. When all 128 beams descended, a blinding light enveloped the Soul Lake's entrance, covering a radius of tens of thousands of yards. From a distance, it looked as if the land was being purified. None of the Tier 5 Holy Race experts could resist the spirit destruction cannons, all of them vaporized the instant they made contact with the beam attacks. As for the Tier 6 Holy Race experts, although one beam was not enough to kill them, each beam still shaved off a visible chunk of their HP. After suffering 128 beam attacks, even the Holy Race experts who could rival Tier 6 gods of the same level were reduced to ashes. After the beams of destruction dissipated, the 3 Holy Race Guilds' campsite had become a barren wasteland. Apart from a few Holy Race experts who managed to escape with the help of life-saving tools, the rest were all dead. Is this the power of an advanced dark gold flying ship? Gentle Snow couldn't believe her eyes as she looked at the vast expanse of scorched earth before her. Of the 30,000+ Holy Race experts stationed at this campsite, 99% were killed in an instant. Even God-ranked Holy Race experts were no exception. Over a dozen Tier 6 God-ranked experts. Apart from Apex powers, no other human power could go up against such a force in the current Eternal Realm. Yet, in front of the Silverwing, these God-ranked experts were no different than cannon fodder. Fervent Samsara and Heavy Abyss were similarly shocked by this development. Although they had long known that the Silverwing was a high-ranking flying ship, they never thought it could be this frightening. The firepower of this flying ship was even greater than that of a Void Fortress. Guild Leader, nearly 100 Tier 6 Holy Race experts escaped before the attack connected. Rampant Blade reported the information he got from the Silverwing's exploration magic array. So be it. Everyone, back on the ship. We must eliminate as much of the Holy Race Army's forces as possible before news spread. Shifeng wasn't particularly surprised by Rampant Blade's report. Immediately, he commanded everyone to return to the Silverwing and head for another campsite the Red Dragon Nation and Azure Fang had discovered. While Shifeng's team was making its way to another campsite, Zero Wing's 9 other assault teams also began their attack on the Holy Race Army one after another. The Holy Race Army's campsite is just ahead. Are you sure you want to attack it, Vice Guild Leader Phoenix? Unrestrained Lionheart, the vice commander of the Red Dragon Nation's main force, couldn't help but ask Phoenix Rain as he looked at the Holy Race's campsite in the distance. Truth be told, unrestrained Lionheart was full of apprehension as he followed Phoenix Rain, Zero Wing's newly appointed vice guild leader, to attack the Holy Race army. This was because he had never heard of Phoenix Rain until today. Moreover, most of the players in Phoenix Rain's team were only Tier 5 players. It should be known that the campsite they were targeting housed over 10,000 Holy Race players, of which over 100 were Tier 6 players. Yet, Phoenix Rain was looking to attack it with only a team of 10. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 3662, Chapter 736, Frightened Holy Race. Chapter 3662, Chapter 736, Frightened Holy Race. Chapter 736, Frightened Holy Race. Naturally, standing amidst a primordial forest with an advanced black cloak concealing her information, Phoenix Rain responded confidently to unrestrained Lionheart's anxiety. Before Phoenix Rain came to the World Ark, Shafong had already informed her of the general situation of the Eternal Realm and Zero Wing, so she knew that Zero Wing needed to defend its resurrection camp at all costs. Otherwise, Zero Wing would lose access to Holy Ring City, and its development would lag behind the other powers over time. It should be known that most powers operating in the Eternal Realm had scattered large amounts of manpower across the Eternal Realm's various NPC cities. Not only were these NPC cities gathering places for a large number of players during the Eternal Realm's initial stages, but the real estate of these NPC cities was also an opportunity for the various powers to generate astronomical wealth. With Zero Wing's current development being limited to just one city, it wouldn't matter how well Zero Wing fared in the Eternal Realm. At the end of the day, Zero Wing still couldn't generate enough wealth to compete against the various powers that were operating in numerous NPC cities. To make matters worse, Zero Wing had very few Tier 6 experts under its command presently. This, in turn, limited how many resource nodes it could occupy in the Eternal Realm. Even if Zero Wing currently possessed the ability to increase a player's chances of advancing to Tier 6, the guild would still need experts with the potential to reach Tier 6 before it could start to produce Tier 6 experts. Although the Crystal City of Secrets had a large player population, it was still just one city. Compared to the players populating the many NPC cities across the Eternal Realm, the Crystal City's player population was minuscule. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before the various powers would have more Tier 6 experts than Zero Wing. Once that happened, there would be very little Zero Wing could do to catch up. If Zero Wing wished to stand a chance against the various conglomerates and pseudo-apex powers, its only hope now was to defend its resurrection camp and rely on it to generate wealth and expand Zero Wing's territory. If you insist. But please be careful, Vice Guild Leader Phoenix. Hearing Phoenix Rain's determined response, unrestrained Lionheart reminded, according to our scouts, the campsite has at least 3 God-ranked experts. If you find yourself not a match, retreat as soon as possible. If your Tier 5 teammates get killed by any of those 3, they might permanently lose access to God's domain. At least 3 God-ranked experts. Sinful Flame, a legendary individual and an elder of the Azure Chamber of Commerce, licked the edges of his mouth in excitement when he heard unrestrained Lionheart's words. I never thought I would get an opportunity to become a challenger at my age. You better not hog them all to yourself, Elder Flame. At least leave some for me, Phoenix Rain said, chuckling when she saw Sinful Flame's enthusiastic behavior. Due to the limited number of Tier 6 experts and 4th floor experts in their home god's domain, she had very few opponents she could spar with ever since she advanced to Tier 6. However, that was no longer the case now that she had arrived in the Eternal Realm. Meanwhile, similar to Sinful Flame, she wanted to spar with as many Tier 6 experts as she could. It would be even better if they were 4th floor experts and above. Whether she won or lost these fights, she would benefit from them massively. No can do. Also, we must agree to a first-come, first-served basis. Nobody is allowed to interfere with each other's fights, Sinful Flame said, rolling his eyes at Phoenix Rain. He showed no intention of making concessions to his juniors. Fine. Phoenix Rain helplessly nodded. Meanwhile, Unrestrained Lionheart was exasperated when he heard the conversation between Sinful Flame and Phoenix Rain. Arrogant. These two individuals were wildly arrogant. God-ranked experts were respected and feared by the various upper-ranking hegemonic powers in the greater God's domain. Yet, Sinful Flame and Phoenix Rain regarded God-ranked experts as merely sparring partners. It should be known that these two individuals were merely fourth-floor experts. They were leagues inferior to the Holy Race's God-ranked experts. Even if Sinful Flame and Phoenix Rain worked together, they would stand no chance against a God-ranked expert from the Holy Race. In fact, they would still lose even if the God-ranked expert gave them a handicap of an arm and a leg. Yet, they were now boldly claiming that they were going to challenge multiple God-ranked experts by themselves. Everyone, move out. When Phoenix Rain saw one of the Holy Race's level 181 God-ranked experts emerging from an advanced tent, she suddenly issued a command to move out before charging forward by herself, behaving nothing like a proper leader. "You shameless little girl." Sinful Flame stamped his feet angrily at Phoenix Rain's behavior. However, when he saw that Phoenix Rain had already gained a head start of several hundred yards, he promptly charged at the advanced tent that the level 181 God-ranked expert had emerged from. As for the 8 Tier 50 wing members on Phoenix Rain's team, they charged forward in a frenzy. As if afraid they wouldn't be noticed, they even went as far as to shout a battle cry as they advanced on the Holy Race army. Lunatics. These people are a bunch of lunatics. Unrestrained Lionheart was dumbfounded when he saw Zero Wing's team initiating a frontal confrontation. Weren't they supposed to ambush the enemy? How was this anything like an ambush? At this time, aside from Unrestrained Lionheart, the Red Dragon Nation scouts, who were observing the Holy Race's campsite from afar, were similarly stunned by this situation. If they didn't know any better, they would think that Zero Wing's 10-man team was secretly backed by a 100,000-man army. After all, these Zero Wing members behaved nothing like a 10-man team would when advancing on a 10,000-man army. Naturally, Zero Wing's unrestrained shouting caught the attention of the Holy Race army in no time. Immediately, the Holy Race players stationed in the campsite emerged from their tents and quickly grouped into parties, intending to use combination holy arts to retaliate against the attacking enemy. What's going on? Why are there only 10 players? Are these human players playing a joke on us? After the Holy Race players got into positions, they couldn't help but doubt their eyes when they saw the approaching Zero Wing members. 10 players. A team of 10 players actually dared to charge at their army of 10,000. Not only that, but only 2 among these 10 players were Tier 6 expert. If they didn't know any better, they'd think they were being attacked by a team of God-ranked experts armed to the teeth. While the Holy Race players were pondering how they should deal with Zero Wing's deranged members, Phoenix Rain suddenly raised her staff into the air. Immediately afterward, a twofold magic array for a Tier 6 curse that covered the entire campsite suddenly appeared, shocking all of the Holy Race players in the campsite. However, what shocked the Holy Race players wasn't the fact that Phoenix Rain had double-cast a Tier 6 curse, but the mana that was being used to power the Tier 6 curse. Phoenix Rain's mana was as solid as steel, and not even the mana of Tier 6 gods could compare. Upon sensing the mana in the twofold magic arrays, even the Holy Race's God-ranked experts, who were initially thinking of ridiculing Zero Wing's members, shuddered involuntarily. She's beyond gods. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 3663, Chapter 737, Silent Battlefield. Chapter 3663, Chapter 737, Silent Battlefield. Chapter 737, Silent Battlefield. TL Notes. I previously mentioned that the raws I received for Chapter 505 were missing a section. Well, I've found the completed version and made the necessary changes. Original. The only problem was that these undeveloped lands were located far from any NPC strongholds, and reaching them required a lot of time, even with the help of legendary flying mounts. It might not be a problem if players only needed to travel to these places once, but the time players wasted on travel would quickly pile up if they had to make multiple trips. This was where guild cities came in. To establish a guild city in the Eternal Realm, players would need to have the city building order, and to obtain a city-building order, players would need to explore and raid the Hundred Eyes Canyon. Edited. The only problem was that these undeveloped lands were located far from any NPC strongholds, and reaching them required a lot of time, even with the help of legendary flying mounts. It might not be a problem if players only needed to travel to these places once, but the time players wasted on travel would quickly pile up if they had to make multiple trips. This was where guild strongholds came to play. However, establishing a guild stronghold in the Eternal Realm was a challenging task. Not only did the construction of a guild stronghold require an astronomical amount of eternal gold coins, but a city-building order was also needed. To make matters worse, it was incredibly difficult to obtain a Lord's certificate. Even the pseudo-apex powers in the current Eternal Realm would need to mobilize all their forces to acquire one. Meanwhile, the Hundred Eyes Canyon was one of the few players where players could obtain city-building orders. Also, Lord's certificate changed to city-building order. Tier 6 Curse, Endless Requiem. This was the only large-scale destruction spell in Phoenix Rain's repertoire. Even with the powerful suppression that the World Ark's environment placed on mana, Endless Requiem could still cover a 1,000-yard radius in a deathly gale that eroded all life. Of course, Endless Requiem wasn't all-powerful. Setting Tier 5 players aside, any decently equipped Tier 6 player caught within the Tier 6 Curse's AoE should have no trouble surviving it under normal circumstances. However, it should be known that Phoenix Rain was currently level 212 and equipped with the God Chaser set. In terms of power, her Endless Requiem would be stronger than even that of level 200, Tier 6 gods. It was no longer a large-scale destruction spell that players under level 200 could withstand. Damn it! Stop her, one of the Holy Race Army's leaders shouted as he pointed at Phoenix Rain. Almost immediately, the 4 God-ranked Holy Race experts stationed in the campsite charged at Phoenix Rain. They understood what they needed to do, and they did not hesitate to take action for even a moment. On the other side, Phoenix Rain naturally noticed the 4 level 180-plus God-ranked experts charging at her. However, even when the 4 God-ranked experts arrived within 500 yards of her, she did not stop channeling her Endless Requiem. Instead, she simply raised her free hand at the 4 experts. Triple speed casting, Tier 6 spell, Thunder Dragon's Halberd. Suddenly, 3 crimson lightning bolts shot out from Phoenix Rain's hand and targeted 3 of the 4 approaching God-ranked experts. Each lightning bolt also split into countless branches as they closed in on its target, covering a much greater area and making evasion impossible. As a result, the 3 targeted God-ranked experts could only gather their holy aura to defend themselves. Boom! Following a loud explosion, the 3 level 181, Tier 6 God-ranked experts were sent flying back over 100 yards, and their HPs fell by nearly 50%. One of them even had his arm crippled because he had failed to deflect Phoenix Rain's attack completely. Who is she? The Holy Race players in the campsite felt their worldview challenged when they saw this development. Just by raising her hand, Phoenix Rain, a human mage god, had crippled 1 God-ranked expert and injured 2. While the Holy Race players in the campsite were in shock, the 4th God-ranked expert had arrived within 50 yards of Phoenix Rain. However, before he could attack Phoenix Rain, a grey-clad old man suddenly appeared before him and swung a knight's sword at his neck. This situation left him with no choice but to try to block and deflect the attack. Clang! When both sides clashed, a crisp sound echoed across the battlefield. Immediately afterward, the Holy Race Army's 4th God-ranked expert could be seen being sent flying like a cannonball. It was also obvious that the God-ranked expert had sustained serious injuries as even after crashing into the ground, he failed to get up right away. An existence beyond gods. It was another existence beyond gods. In a mere team of 10, there were actually 2 experts who were above gods. Before the Holy Race players in the campsite could wrap their minds around this mind-boggling situation, the remaining 8 members of Zero Wing's assault team also began their attack, bombarding the campsite with a series of arrows and spells. Although these 8 Zero Wing members were only Tier 5 players, they were all at level 210 and equipped with the epic God Chaser set. The power of their attacks could rival level 180, Tier 6 gods. With their opponents being only a bunch of level 180 players, it went without saying they could deal devastating damage. Subsequently, the attacks of 8 Tier 50 wing members could be seen obliterating any Tier 5 Holy Race player they came into contact with. As for the Tier 6 Holy Race experts struck by these attacks, although they didn't die on the spot, they still sustained heavy injuries, proving that they weren't strong enough to confront the attacks directly. The 8 Tier 50 wing members were effectively invincible as they clashed with the Holy Race army, killing several dozen Tier 5 Holy Race experts with their every attack and heavily injuring Tier 6 Holy Race experts. As for the Tier 6 Shadow Knight Sinful Flame, he was akin to the Grim Reaper on the battlefield, eliminating every Holy Race expert in his path without fail. In only 3 seconds, Sinful Flame and the 8 Tier 50 wing members had already killed over 1,000 Holy Race players, reducing the campsite's population by nearly 10%. Am I hallucinating? Unrestrained Lionheart couldn't help but rub his eyes as he watched the slaughter before him. He seriously suspected he was hallucinating. It was already unbelievable that Zero Wing's 10-man assault team had 2 taboo-level existences. Yet, as if that wasn't enough, the remaining 8 members of the team were also existences slightly stronger than the average God-ranked experts. 1. Most importantly, these 8 individuals were only Tier 5 players. It should be known that Unrestrained Lionheart was an elder of the Red Dragon Nation. However, even after ascending to Tier 6, he was still much weaker compared to God-ranked experts of the same level. Unless he could gather a full set of legendary equipment for himself, he could never hope to fight God-ranked experts of the same level. Yet, Zero Wing's 8 Tier 5 members could not only fight God-ranked experts, but they were even winning with an overwhelming advantage. As Unrestrained Lionheart grappled with reality, the Holy Race army suffered another 1,000 casualties. The Holy Race army, once a symbol of fear for the various human powers, was now crumbling apart like a house of cards before the relentless onslaught of Zero Wing's assault team. With such frightening teams under his command, it's no wonder Black Flame can hold the Skylight Association's partnership offer in contempt. If 19th Sword learns of this, he'll probably regret ever making an enemy out of Zero Wing. When Unrestrained Lionheart saw how easily Phoenix Rain's team was massacring an army of 10,000 plus Holy Race players, he suddenly started to pity 19th Sword. It should be known that Zero Wing had dispatched 10 assault teams to ambush the Holy Race army scattered across the Soul Lake. Even if the other teams were slightly weaker than Phoenix Rain's team, the difference shouldn't be significant. With such a force under Zero Wing's command, even if all of the pseudo-apex powers currently operating in the World Arc joined forces, they still couldn't afford to provoke Zero Wing. Yet, the Skylight Association's 19th Sword had declared he would make it impossible for Zero Wing to survive in the World Arc. Everyone, gather on me. I'm activating the Holy Aegis. As Zero Wing's assault team members continued their slaughter, the Holy Race Army's commander took out a holy totem from his bag and chanted an incantation. Subsequently, numerous protective screens made of holy power formed around the campsite, isolating the Holy Race army from Zero Wing's members. At the same time, a barrier covering a 1,000-yard radius formed around Zero Wing's members, trapping them inside. Someone, contact the rest of the army, inform them that Zero Wing's main force is attacking us and that we have trapped them here. Have them send reinforcements immediately, the army commander commanded. Now, they only had to wait for reinforcements from the rest of the army to eliminate Phoenix Rain and the others. Admittedly, Phoenix Rain and her teammates were very strong. On a battlefield involving only 10,000 players, they could exhibit heaven-defying strength. However, their strength would become insignificant when faced with the 3 Holy Race Guilds' army of 200,000 plus experts. The 3 guilds had gathered over 100 God-ranked experts this time, so annihilating 8 God-ranked experts would be child's play. They also had large-scale combination holy arts that, when executed by 100 Tier 6 God-ranked experts, could obliterate even taboo-level existences. Have these guilds lost their minds? Why would they use a defensive treasure like Holy Aegis here? Unrestrained Lionheart revealed an ugly look when he saw the protective screens that had formed around the Holy Race Army's campsite. Holy Aegis was a famous single-use tool among the Holy Race as it could withstand many attacks from even taboo-level existences. However, due to its rarity, each Holy Aegis was worth as much as a legendary weapon, and even the Holy Race's royal powers did not have many, let alone the subordinates of royal powers. If Phoenix Rain's team couldn't break out in time, their fates would be sealed once the rest of the Holy Race Army arrived. While unrestrained Lionheart was having a panic attack, the members of the 3 Holy Race Guilds calling for reinforcements inside the Holy Aegis suddenly revealed dumbfounded expressions. Requesting reinforcements. Our coordinates are 154, 445. We have discovered Zero Wings Taboo level main force members. Screw you. We have also discovered Zero Wings Taboo level main force members. There are 3 of them here. We have already trapped them using Holy Aegis, so hurry up and send reinforcement. TL notes. 1. Slightly stronger than God-ranked experts. This line is written in unrestrained Lionheart's perspective, so the God-ranked experts here are referring to level 180, Tier 6 God-ranked experts. Phoenix Rain and the others are equipped with the advanced Black Cloak, so unrestrained Lionheart is unaware of their actual levels. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 3664, Chapter 738, New Legend. Chapter 3664, Chapter 738, New Legend. Chapter 738, New Legend. World Arc, Soul Lake Resurrection Camp. Following the arrival of Zero Wings reinforcements, the atmosphere in the Resurrection Camp became incomparably tense and gloomy. It was especially so for the Red Dragon Nations and Azure Fang's members. Although they kept setting up magic arrays and war weapons around the camp's perimeter, they wore grim expressions as they did so. After all, their opponents this time were the Sun Dynasty's Holy Guard and an army of 200,000 plus Holy Race experts formed by the Sun Dynasty's 3 subordinate guilds. Not even the 7 Luminaries Alliance's resurrection camps could defend against such a force. So, even though the Red Dragon Nation, Azure Fang, and Zero Wing worked together, their chances of successfully defending the Soul Lake Resurrection Camp were slim. What do you think Zero Wing is trying to do, Milia? I thought they were sending their flying ship to aid in the defense, but it left again shortly after arriving. The Red Dragon Nation and Azure Fang also sent out a bunch of scouts to investigate the Holy Race Army. Could they be planning an ambush? Titan asked out of curiosity as he observed the situation inside the Soul Lake Resurrection Camp with the help of a magic mirror. I've also heard other guilds saying that Black Flame has gone toward the 3 Holy Race Guilds campsite with a small team. Does he really think he can turn this guild war around all by himself? How should I know? Milia answered, shaking her head. Then, a solemn look suddenly appeared on her face as she continued, but based on our scouts' reports, the forces the 3 Holy Race Guilds have scattered across the Soul Lake seem to be in disarray right now. Did Black Flame really initiate an attack on them? Titan asked, revealing a look of interest. If that's the case, we should go over and take a look. The 7 Luminaries Alliance has placed Black Flame on the latest edition of the Divine Glory list. He's even ranked among the top 300 despite having only reached Tier 6 recently. This is the same treatment Spear Paradise received when he debuted after killing a level 200 plus ancient god. By now, Black Flame had already become a hot topic for many players in the Greater God's domain, and the cause behind it was the latest edition of the Divine Glory list. The Divine Glory list was a ranking list that recorded the Greater God's domain's apex powerhouses. Although it wasn't perfect, it was still very reliable, and it held vastly greater influence in the Greater God's domain than the Luminous and Sacred Glory lists. As for why everyone was discussing Black Flame specifically, it was because he had debuted on the Divine Glory list. Not only that, but he had also debuted with a ranking in the top 300, even though Black Flame had only advanced to Tier 6 recently. This was a treatment the 7 Luminaries Alliance had rarely offered in the past century. It should be known that anyone capable of entering the Divine Glory list would be in existence capable of trading blows with a level 200, Tier 6 god at the very least. In addition, the 7 Luminaries Alliance would rarely assign debutantes a high ranking on the Divine Glory list. For example, although there were some debutantes who had proven themselves capable of trading blows with ancient gods, most of them had only debuted with a ranking in the top 500. As for why the 7 Luminaries Alliance would do so, It was to ensure the accuracy of the divine glory list. After all, a single battle wasn't enough to give a full picture of a player's strength. It was entirely possible that the player just so happened to have performed outstandingly in that particular battle. It could also be that they had taken advantage of unique circumstances, such as the enemy being weakened prior to the battle. Only by evaluating players across multiple battles could the Seven Luminaries Alliance make an accurate evaluation. Of course, this didn't mean that the Seven Luminaries Alliance was arbitrary in its decision to give Black Flame his current rank. The Alliance had clearly indicated on the Divine Glory list that Black Flame had received his ranking because of his achievement of killing Chalk Splendor, a holy child of the Sun Dynasty. The Alliance had also indicated that Chalk Splendor was wielding the Sunlight Blade, a divine weapon, at the time. With the achievement of slaying a taboo-level existence under his belt, nobody would question Black Flame's qualifications to be on the Divine Glory list. After all, taboo-level existences were few and far between in the greater God's domain. Moreover, most, if not all, belonged to the various apex powers and pseudo-apex powers. However, it would be a little far-fetched to say that Black Flame deserved to be ranked within the top 300 in his first evaluation. That was akin to saying that Black Flame was on the same standard as Spear Paradise, the great commander of the Scarecrow Fox Adventurer team. It should be known that Spear Paradise debuted on the Divine Glory list after slaying a level 200+ ancient god. Even if Chalk Splendor was wielding the Sunlight Blade when Black Flame fought him, it would be an exaggeration to say that he could compare with a level 200+ ancient god. Not to mention, Black Flame had Verdant Rainbow helping him from the side. Without Verdant Rainbow's assistance, Black Flame would never have been able to kill Chalk Splendor. For these reasons, many people felt that the Seven Luminaries Alliance was giving preferential treatment to Black Flame. Either that or the Alliance deemed that Black Flame's potential was equal to the Spear Paradise of the past, which, in turn, meant that Black Flame was qualified to stand on equal footing with lofty existences such as 19th Sword, who was one of the current 10 great sword gods. Hence, Titan couldn't help but be curious about Black Flame's talent and potential. That's merely the Alliance showing Black Flame its appreciation for his contributions, 19th Sword said contemptuously as he opened his eyes. You're not young anymore, Titan. How can you not understand something so simple? Do you really think Black Flame is worthy of being compared with Spear Paradise? In 19th Sword's opinion, Black Flame could indeed be regarded as a genius for mastering a gold combat technique at such a young age. It was also why he praised the young man originally. However, to say that Black Flame was comparable with Spear Paradise in potential would be a gross overestimation. Others might not be fully aware of the circumstances surrounding Spear Paradise, but 19th Sword was. Spear Paradise, the divine spear, might have been a late bloomer, but as he kept growing, his strength became increasingly astonishing. He had grown so strong that he had single-handedly turned Scarecrow Fox into an adventurer team that even the various pseudo-apex powers needed to respect. On what grounds did Black Flame deserve to be equated to someone like Spear Paradise? I doubt it is Black Flame fighting against the 3 holy race guilds, Milia said, shaking her head. According to the information I received, a mysterious power is attacking multiple of the 3 guilds' campsites simultaneously, causing them severe losses. Moreover, this mysterious power has already mobilized more than 10 taboo-level existences thus far. Do you think Zero Wing has that many taboo-level existences? I guess you're right. Titan nodded. Currently, Black Flame was the only known taboo-level existence in Zero Wing. As for Gentle Snow, the snow goddess, although she was strong, she was far from reaching the standard of taboos. No matter how Titan thought about it, there was no way Zero Wing could mobilize 10 taboo-level existences. Can you have your people look into that power, Milia? 19th Sword asked. It'll be even better if you can get in touch with that power. There should only be a few powers capable of mobilizing so many taboo-level existences in the greater God's domain, and none were existences the Skylight Association could afford to provoke at present. So, it would naturally be good if the Skylight Association could get acquainted with this mysterious power. This, just as 19th Sword asked his question, Milia received an update from one of her subordinates. Then, she suddenly grew hesitant as she turned to 19th Sword and said, That power seems to be Zero Wing. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 3665, Chapter 739, Holy Guard arrives. Chapter 3665, Chapter 739, Holy Guard arrives. Chapter 739, Holy Guard arrives. Zero Wing? Titan revealed a surprised look when he heard Milia's words. You're not joking, are you, Milia? Even for the various apex powers, it would be difficult for them to come up with a force of 10 taboo-level existences in the current Eternal Realm. So, how was it possible that a newly established guild like Zero Wing could do so? If Zero Wing truly had such a powerful foundation, the Skylight Association's threat to Zero Wing would become a complete joke. Are you certain, Milia? 19th Sword asked, similarly having difficulty believing Milia's words. There should be no mistaking it, Milia said as she solemnly looked at the report she just received. The scouts I dispatched have already sent over several battle videos involving the Holy Race Army's campsites. You'll know once you take a look. After saying so, Milia played 2 videos she received on the magic mirror for 19th Sword and Titan to watch, each lasting no more than 20 seconds. The first video showed a battle in a forest, and a large section of the forest could be seen encircled by screens made from holy power of unprecedented density. Shortly after the video began, a cloaked woman wearing a 6-winged emblem could be seen waving the staff in her hand and calling down a gale of death upon the forest. The gale dyed the forest environment in a shade of grey and repeatedly struck the energy screens, wearing them away. In only a few seconds, the energy screens, which looked like they could withstand a long and continuous bombardment from even a taboo-level existence, shattered. Subsequently, it took only a moment for the gale of death to annihilate the thousands of Holy Race players behind the energy screens. The second video showed a battle taking place beside a lake. The Holy Race Army in the video comprised over 10,000 players, of which more than 30 Tier 6 experts. As soon as the video began, a cloaked female assassin could be seen reaping the lives of the Tier 6 Holy Race experts one after another. None of the Tier 6 Holy Race experts could last more than a move against the female assassin, even God-ranked experts were not an exception. Similar to the Elementalist in the first video, the female assassin could be vaguely seen wearing Zero Wing's 6-winged emblem. When the second video concluded, silence enveloped the tent. Neither 19th Sword nor Titan could find any words. What should we do now, Elder Sword? Milia asked, breaking the silence. If Zero Wing decides to take action against us in the World Arc, I'm afraid we will be powerless to resist. If Zero Wing only had 1 or 2 taboo-level existences, the Skylight Association could still hold its ground, albeit just barely. However, fighting a force of more than 10 taboo-level existences was no longer within the realm of the current Skylight Association's capabilities. At this time, Titan also turned to 19th Sword for his decision. 19th Sword was the person in charge of the Skylight Association's operations in the World Arc. He was also the person who knew the Skylight Association best. If even 19th Sword didn't have a way out of this predicament, the Skylight Association would most likely have to withdraw from the World Arc. It seems I have underestimated Black Flame. I didn't think he would have hidden so many experts who can rival taboo-level existences. Contrasting the reaction Milia and Titan had expected, 19th Sword suddenly chuckled. Then, he said, our plan remains unchanged. You two should just stick to it like before. But Zero Wing has over 10 taboo-level existences, Elder Sword. Titan emphasized. These taboo-level existences alone should be enough to defend the Soul Lake Resurrection Camp from the Sun Dynasty. Taboo-level existences were akin to weapons of mass destruction when used against the powers operating in the current Eternal Realm. Even 1 taboo-level existence could achieve astounding effects on a battlefield, let alone a force of over 10 taboo-level existences. Even the Sun Dynasty shouldn't be capable of defeating such a force. Although these two people have tried their best to hide it, their actual combat standards aren't particularly noteworthy, 19th Sword said nonchalantly as he glanced at Titan. I don't know what method Zero Wing has used to grant them the power of taboos, But I can say for certain that they don't have any divine artifacts equipped. They merely have incredibly high basic attributes. Zero Wing would be dreaming if it thinks it can defeat the Sun Dynasty's Holy Guard with such players. Is the Sun Dynasty's Holy Guard that powerful, Elder Sword? Milia asked out of curiosity. She couldn't understand why 19th Sword would be so certain Zero Wing wouldn't be a match for the Holy Guard. I hadn't told this to you two before, but I trust this information should reach the various powers soon. Putting on a solemn expression, 19th Sword said, 2 days ago, the Eternal Chamber of Commerce had sent 4 divine artifact wielders to the World Ark's core area on a mission. However, all 4 of them ended up getting killed by the Sun Dynasty's Holy Guard. 4 of Eternal's divine artifact wielders were killed. Impossible! Milia exclaimed. Did the Holy Guard mobilize in full force? The Eternal Chamber of Commerce was an apex power of the human race. Although it had always operated mysteriously, no power would dare to underestimate it, especially not its divine artifact wielders. In terms of combat standards, these divine artifact wielders were definitely comparable to the 7 Luminaries Alliance's Verdant Rainbow. So, Milia found it truly hard to imagine what kind of force was necessary to kill 4 of such individuals. Full force. 19th Sword cackled. If the Holy Guard really did attack with all its members, do you think Eternal will bother to suppress the news? A 1,000-man team. The Holy Guard mobilized only a 1,000-man team. Furthermore, that 1,000-man team only sent 4 of its 100-man teams to deal with Eternal's 4 divine artifact wielders, 4 100-man teams? How is this possible? Titan couldn't help but be taken aback. Had the Holy Guard mobilized all its members to kill 4 taboo-level existences, although he would still be surprised, he wouldn't find it unbelievable. However, killing 4 divine artifact wielders with only 400 players sounded like a fantasy, no matter how he thought about it. Just as 19th Sword was about to say something in response, the magic mirror inside the tent suddenly fluctuated violently, numerous ripples spreading across the mirror's surface. Powerful energy fluctuations are approaching the Resurrection Camp. Has the Sun Dynasty arrived? Apart from the Skylight Association's magic mirror, the other powers observing the Soul Lake Resurrection Camp from a distance also saw intense reactions coming from their magic mirrors. Subsequently, a moment after these magic mirrors started to fluctuate, the image of a gigantic 18-headed serpent that measured several thousand meters tall appeared on them. Thousands of Holy Race players could also be seen standing atop the serpent's 18 heads, their standardized equipment and organized formations giving them the appearance of a well-trained army. Apart from looking like disciplined soldiers, all these Holy Race players were at level 182, tier 6, or above. Among them, the team leaders were fully equipped with legendary equipment, and the auras they radiated could match that of tier 6 gods of the same level. Furthermore, standing at the forefront of each of the serpent's 18 heads were individuals with auras as strong as the 18-headed serpent itself. Aside from wearing guild emblems shaped like the sun, the 18 individuals also wore white capes imprinted with a similarly shaped holy pattern. Meanwhile, when the various human powers experts saw these Holy Race players, a name automatically appeared in their minds. The Holy Guard. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 3666, Chapter 740, God-Ranked Battle. Chapter 3666, Chapter 740, God-Ranked Battle. Chapter 740, God-Ranked Battle. They're finally here. So, this is the Sun Dynasty's Holy Guard? Inside the Soul Lake Resurrection Camp, Fry and Garut were greatly shocked as they looked at the 18-headed serpent hovering outside the camp. As vice guild leaders of pseudo-apex powers, Fry and Garut were no strangers to battles of epic proportions. They had even personally witnessed realm wars, battles that involved billions of experts fighting in the Void Sea, before. However, compared to the scene before them, even realm wars would pale. A Void Leviathan? Standing in the control room of a 1,000-meter-long flying ship, Verdant Rainbow instinctively uttered a name as she looked on in astonishment at the 18-headed serpent displayed in the magic mirror. Is this the strength of the Sun Dynasty? The Seven Luminaries Alliance elder standing beside Verdant Rainbow was similarly surprised. A Void Leviathan. A level 193 Void Leviathan. For most players in the Greater Gods domain, this was likely a name they had never heard of. However, for the various Apex Powers executives and experts who had ventured to the fringes of the Void Sea, this name would be very familiar. Although it was generally thought that the Void Sea was endless and without borders, that was only because the various powers had yet to find an end after exploring it for many years. However, one particular area of the Void Sea could be considered the Void Sea's border. Or, more accurately, it was a place players could not approach. As for why players couldn't approach this so-called border, it was due to the dangers that existed there. Even taboo-level experts equipped with divine weapons would fall if they dared to tread into that place. However, for those who did tread into this borderland, the first gatekeepers they would encounter were the Void Leviathans. Void Leviathans were a type of ferocious beast, and their life rating was so high that they could match sacred dragons. At the same level, even ancient gods would dread facing a Void Leviathan. Void Leviathans were extremely violent, and they existed for the sake of devouring all life. Furthermore, Void Leviathans typically moved in groups of dozens or more than 100. It was virtually impossible to find any on their own and tame them. At the very least, no human power had ever managed to tame a Void Leviathan, let alone bring one into the Eternal Realm. So, it was truly astonishing to see the Sun Dynasty's Holy Guard using a Void Leviathan as a flying mount. It also showed how fearsome of a foundation the Sun Dynasty possessed. While the spectating human powers were looking at the Void Leviathan in shock, the Red Dragon Nation and Azure Fang members in the Soul Lake Resurrection Camp revealed ashen faces. Even Tier 6 players like Fry and Garut were no exception. Unlike the numerous powers observing the battlefield through magic mirrors, Fry and Garut's attention wasn't directed towards the Void Leviathan. Instead, their gazes were fixed on the 18 individuals standing at the forefront of each of the Void Leviathan's heads. Fry, do you think we still have time to run away? Garut asked with a wry smile. The Void Leviathan itself was already a fearsome opponent to face. Yet, as if that wasn't enough, each of the 18 leader-like individuals standing atop the Void Leviathan's heads also radiated an aura no weaker than that of the Void Leviathan. It was especially so for the three-eyed beauty standing on the Void Leviathan's centermost head. If the 17 other individuals were described as harbingers of death, the three-eyed beauty was death itself. It seems we have severely underestimated the Holy Guard, whether it is us or the Seven Luminaries Alliance. As Fry looked at the three-eyed beauty, she understood that their defeat was assured. Setting aside the three-eyed beauty, simply the Holy Guard's Void Leviathan and 17 taboo-level experts were more than enough to flatten the Soul Lake Resurrection Camp. Although Fry had already learned from unrestrained Lionheart that Zero Wing possessed more than 10 taboo-level experts, she still didn't think they could win against the Holy Guard. It should be known that the Void Leviathan wasn't your average ferocious beast. Each of its 18 heads was akin to an independent monster. It was just that these 18 monsters shared the same body. In other words, facing a Tier 6 Void Leviathan was akin to facing 18 Tier 6 dragons simultaneously. With such a force, one could easily destroy an entire kingdom, let alone a resurrection camp. Not to mention, the Holy Guard had over 10,000 Tier 6 experts. The team leaders of the Holy Guard were also only slightly weaker than Tier 6 gods of the same level. With such strength, not even pseudo-apex powers could afford to provoke the Holy Guard. While everyone in the resurrection camp was in despair, a streak of silver light suddenly appeared on the horizon and shot in the camp's direction. The speed of the approaching object was so fast that, by the time the many Tier 5 experts realized what was going on, a flying ship had already appeared above the resurrection camp. Thank goodness they made it back in time. When Fry saw the flying ship hovering above the camp, she couldn't help but feel a little relieved. The flying ship was none other than Zero Wing's Silver Wing. Moreover, standing aboard the Silver Wing were the assault teams that had gone to ambush the Sun Dynasty's 3 subordinate guilds. Although the timely return of these assault teams still wouldn't be enough to equalize the strength of the resurrection camp's defenders with the Holy Guard, they still added some hope to the camp. Are we really going to fight them to the death here, guild leader? Gentle Snow asked, her voice wavering as she looked at the gigantic void leviathan. Before returning, Gentle Snow believed that Zero Wing should have no trouble defending the Soul Lake Resurrection Camp from the Sun Dynasty. However, after seeing the Holy Guard for herself, she couldn't help but be frightened. Compared to the Holy Guard, the forces the Sun Dynasty had previously sent to attack the Seven Luminaries Alliance's resurrection camps were nothing but a joke. Details aside, it should be known that Zero Wing currently only had 16 taboo-level existences and 84 God-ranked experts. In comparison, the Holy Guard possessed over 10,000 Tier 6 experts, of which nearly 1,000 were God-ranked experts, and 18 were taboo-level existences. At first glance, even if Zero Wing could potentially emerge victorious, its chances of victory would be incredibly slim. In this situation, the wiser move for Zero Wing to make would be to withdraw from the World Arc. After all, with Zero Wing's current strength, even without the World Arc, it could easily thrive somewhere else in the Eternal Realm. It was unnecessary to butt heads with the Sun Dynasty. "I'm afraid it's too late to withdraw now," Shifeng said. When he looked at the Holy Guard riding on the Void Leviathan, he couldn't help but sigh in amazement. As expected of a royal power. "I didn't think it would be possible for anyone to have such strength so soon." Originally, Shifeng thought that it shouldn't be possible for any power to mobilize many God-ranked experts during the Eternal Realm's early exploration stage. Even if the Sun Dynasty was a royal power from the Holy Race, he felt that the most the Sun Dynasty would have at this point in time was 100 God-ranked experts. Hence, he felt that with the strength of his home god's domain's experts, Zero Wing could easily take over the Eternal Realm. However, he never thought that the Sun Dynasty would already have such a frightening foundation in the early stages of the Eternal Realm. While Shifeng was observing the Holy Guard, the three-eyed beauty standing on the Void Leviathan shifted her gaze onto him. At the same time, her three eyes turned dark purple, and faint arcs of lightning could be seen flashing in them. Wherever her eyes gazed upon, space and time froze, and even Tier 6 experts found themselves immobilized. "Are you Black Flame?" The one who took the sunlight blade, Daystar asked like a superior questioning her subordinate as she gazed down at Shifeng. Her voice rang across the sky, and it felt like the world itself was questioning Shifeng. "That is me," Shifeng answered as he met Daystar's gaze. Daystar, the commander of the Sun Dynasty's Holy Guard. She was known in Shifeng's previous life as the Arbiter of Death. Had she not abruptly returned to the Holy Race's greater god's domain during the war between the two races, many believed the outcome would have been far less favorable to the human race. "Good. You may die now." Daystar nodded. Then, she raised her hand, gesturing for the Holy Guard to attack in full force. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 3667, Chapter 741, Level 212, Tier 6 Personal Guard. Chapter 3667, Chapter 741, Level 212, Tier 6 Personal Guard. Chapter 741, Level 212, Tier 6 Personal Guard. As Daystar's indifferent voice echoed across the battlefield, the 17 vice commanders of the Holy Guard kicked off the Void Leviathan's heads and shot straight toward the Silver Wing. As for the rest of the Holy Guard, they grouped up in their respective teams and advanced on the resurrection camp down below. Not even bothering with the formalities, Seeing the advancing Holy Guard, Shifeng commanded, "Let's take action as well." Then, immediately, Phoenix Rain and the other Tier 6 experts from Shifeng's home god's domain moved to meet the Holy Guard's vice commanders in battle. Relying on the attribute advantage provided by the God Chaser set, Phoenix Rain, Ji Luorong, Shadow Flower, and the others easily kept the Holy Guard's vice commanders at bay. At the same time, over 100 metallic combat puppets emerged from the resurrection camp. These combat puppets measured over 30 meters tall, and each radiated an aura that could instill fear into even Tier 6 players. Meanwhile, as soon as these combat puppets appeared, they unleashed space-shattering destructive beams at the numerous attacks launched by the Holy Guard's members. Boom! 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 Suddenly, the area around the Soul Lake Resurrection Camp became brightly lit. Even players operating in the surrounding maps could see a dazzling glow rising from the Soul Lake. Meanwhile, following the initial exchange, all of the magic and holy barriers erected on the battlefield shattered, leaving both sides defenseless. This forced the two sides to engage each other in a direct confrontation. Logically, with the Holy Guard having over 10,000 Tier 6 experts on its side, the Legion shouldn't need much effort to deal with the Resurrection Camp's defenders, even if Zero Wing, Azure Fang, and the Red Dragon Nation had a combined army of over 100,000. However, the addition of Zero Wing's God Slayer combat puppets created a huge problem for the Holy Guard. Each of the God Slayer combat puppets' attacks was akin to a Tier 6 large-scale destruction curse. Against attacks of such caliber, even Tier 6 God-ranked experts could not survive getting hit more than a few times. So, when the 114 God Slayer combat puppets on the battlefield attacked together, nothing could stand in their way. After only one joint attack from the God Slayer combat puppets, the Holy Guard had already sustained several hundred casualties. Moreover, those killed did not leave any weapons or equipment behind, as everything within a 1,000-yard radius was thoroughly disintegrated. In contrast, although the Holy Guard's team leaders had retaliated against the God Slayer combat puppets, all of their attacks combined only managed to shave 1 point off the combat puppets' durability. For the God Slayer combat puppets that had 2,000 durability points, such damage was completely negligible. As for the exchange between the rest of the Holy Guard members and the Resurrection Camp's defenders, although Zero Wing, Azure Fang, and the Red Dragon Nation suffered many more casualties due to the majority of their forces being composed of Tier 5 players, the casualty rate for both sides was roughly equal. When the various spectating powers saw this situation, they couldn't help but be flabbergasted. Those combat puppets must be above the Dark Gold rank. Verdant Rainbow was greatly shocked as she looked at the God Slayer combat puppets displayed in the magic mirror before her. It was surprising enough that Zero Wing's hidden experts could hold their ground against the Holy Guard's vice commanders. I didn't think they would also have so many advanced Dark Gold combat puppets hidden. No wonder Black Flame can scoff at the Sun Dynasty's threat. Previously, Verdant Rainbow firmly believed that Zero Wing, Azure Fang, and the Red Dragon Nation were severely disadvantaged in terms of army composition, primarily due to the staggering disparity in Tier 6 experts between the two sides. Even if Zero Wing's mysterious experts could distract the Holy Guard's vice commanders, the remaining Holy Guard members could easily eliminate the three guilds' forces before regrouping with their vice commanders to overwhelm Zero Wing's mysterious experts. Although Tier 6 players possessed incredibly high physical parameters, they would still deplete their stamina and concentration rapidly in intense battles. It was especially so in battles against experts of a similar caliber. If both sides went all out, it wouldn't even be strange if they used up their stamina and concentration completely after only several dozen exchanges. Meanwhile, once out of stamina and concentration, it wouldn't matter if Zero Wing's mysterious experts were taboo-level existences. They would instantly become fish on a chopping block, even to ordinary Tier 6 players. However, Zero Wing had instantly bridged this massive gap in strength with its God Slayer combat puppets. The addition of these combat puppets thoroughly prevented the general members of the Holy Guard from affecting the high-level battle above ground. While Zero Wing's trump card is indeed surprising, you shouldn't forget that Daystar is no ordinary expert, Your Highness, the Seven Luminaries Alliance elder standing beside Verdant Rainbow said, shaking his head. Although the rumors say that Eternal's 4 taboo-level existences had died in the hands of 400 of the Holy Guard's members, you and I both know that this is merely misinformation released by Eternal to cover up the actual situation. In reality, Daystar had single-handedly killed all 4 of those individuals while the rest of the Holy Guard merely watched from the side. Now that Daystar has even brought a Void Leviathan to the battlefield, I can only see Zero Wing's chances of victory as slim. Zero Wing's ability to mobilize over 100 advanced Dark Gold combat puppets was indeed amazing. Even the Seven Luminaries Alliance could never imagine mobilizing so many. This was because of the difficulty of repairing war weapons of such caliber. Even if the Alliance could repair them, the materials needed to do the repairs were incredibly difficult to procure. However, although powerful, advanced Dark Gold combat puppets were not almighty. While they might achieve incredible results when used against players, their effectiveness would plummet when used against monsters. In the case of a ferocious beast like the Void Leviathan, it probably wouldn't need more than a few attacks to destroy the Godslayer combat puppets. With its high HP and defense, it also wouldn't fear the Godslayer combat puppets' bombardment. While the Seven Luminaries Alliance Elder was speaking, the previously idle Void Leviathan had seemingly received a command from Daystar as it suddenly opened its mouths to initiate a breath attack on the Resurrection Camp. Each of the Void Leviathan's 18 heads gathered enough energy to exceed the standard of Tier 6 gods. If all 18 heads attacked together, even ancient gods of the same level should think twice before trying to receive it. Is that woman crazy? Fry, who was battling against a team leader of the Holy Guard, grew somber when she saw the Void Leviathan preparing for a breath attack. The Void Leviathan was massive, so even Tier 6 players would likely have difficulty escaping its breath attacks AoE in time. If the Void Leviathan scattered its 18 breath attacks, it could absolutely cover the entire Resurrection Camp. However, apart from the members of their 3 guilds, several thousand Holy Guard members were also fighting in the Resurrection Camp's vicinity. In other words, if the Void Leviathan were to release its breath attacks in this situation, thousands of Holy Guard members would get killed as well. However, the Holy Guard members embroiled in battle behaved as if they did not notice the Void Leviathan's actions. They kept fighting in a frenzy, and some even actively prevented the camp defenders from distancing themselves from the Resurrection Camp. They were fully intent on perishing together. It seems there's no holding back in this situation. When Shifeng saw the Void Leviathan's intentions, he sighed and said, "Bring him out, Blue." Understood. Upon hearing Shifeng's command, Blue Phoenix promptly took out a summon guard scroll and activated it. Boom. Suddenly, as if the sky was falling, a mighty aura descended upon the entirety of the Soul Lake. Then, a dragon knight clad in heavy armor gradually emerged from a magic array before Blue Phoenix, his presence causing the souls of everyone on the battlefield to shudder. A level 212, Tier 6 personal guard. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 3668, Chapter 742, Legendary Guard vs. Void Leviathan. Chapter 3668, Chapter 742, Legendary Guard vs. Void Leviathan. Chapter 742, Legendary Guard vs. Void Leviathan. Am I dreaming? Level 212, Tier 6. How can such a personal guard exist? The Holy Guard's members and the spectating human powers were greatly confused when they saw Los Merin. Personal guards were a feature available to both human and holy race players. Hence, both races were familiar with the existence of personal guards. For this reason, they knew how difficult it was to develop personal guards to Tier 6 and how powerful Tier 6 personal guards could be. However, rather than Los Merin's tier, what truly confused everyone was his level. Level 212. Outside the Eternal Realm, personal guards of this level were relatively common, and nobody would fuss about seeing one. However, in the current Eternal Realm, a level 212 personal guard was virtually invincible. It also wasn't a level that was supposed to exist in the current Eternal Realm. Be it in the human race's greater god's domain or the holy race's greater god's domain, level 200 was a massive turning point. Upon reaching level 200, the basic attributes of players, monsters, and NPCs would experience a qualitative transformation. Even the most ordinary level 200, Tier 6 NPC could easily dominate a city populated by only Tier 6 players under level 200, ensuring nobody would dare to make trouble in the city. This was also why, despite having such powerful forces already, none of the holy race powers dared to attack the Eternal Realm's various NPC cities. Any random NPC city in the Eternal Realm would have more than one level 200 plus, Tier 6 NPC guarding it. If Tier 6 players under level 200 tried to attack these cities, even if they attacked in a massive army, their actions would be no different than suicide. So, how could they not be shocked and frightened now that there was a level 212 personal guard before them? Although many players had already started to recruit personal guards in the various NPC cities, the NPCs they recruited were only around level 190. While level 200 plus NPCs existed in the Eternal Realm, They were typically big shots of their respective cities, and recruiting them was nigh impossible. A level 212, tier 6 personal guard? Daystar, standing atop the Void Leviathan, also looked surprised when she saw the Dragon Knight Los Merin. However, the surprise in her eyes quickly faded as she indifferently said, "Had you used this trump card against any other legion, you would have indeed been undefeatable. Unfortunately, your opponent is the Void Leviathan. Even a level 212 personal guard will have to disappear along with the resurrection camp here." At the same time as Daystar finished speaking, the Void Leviathan unleashed the energy it had been charging with its 18 heads. In an instant, 18 radiant beams shot out from the Void Leviathan's mouths and converged to form a miniature world that covered a 5,000-yard radius. Then, this miniature world descended upon the Soul Lake Resurrection Camp. In the meantime, Fry and the others found themselves immobilized due to the pressure exerted by the miniature world. They felt as if they were stuck between two converging worlds, and all they could do was wait for death to claim them. What a pity! Verdant Rainbow couldn't help but sigh when she saw the Void Leviathan's attack. As Daystar mentioned, had Los Merin's opponent not been the Void Leviathan, he could have absolutely defended the Soul Lake Resurrection Camp. It wouldn't even be an exaggeration to say that he could render the Sun Dynasty powerless against the Resurrection Camp. Unfortunately, the Void Leviathan was no ordinary ferocious beast. It was an existence capable of devouring all existences, and even ancient gods of the same level were fearful of them. In terms of combat power, a level 193 Void Leviathan was superior to even level 200, tier 6 gods, let alone a level 212, tier 6 personal guard. While Verdant Rainbow was lamenting Zero Wing's fate, Los Merin suddenly appeared in the miniature world's path of descent with his shield raised. Evidently, he planned to receive the Void Leviathan's attack head-on to protect the resurrection camp. Boom! A loud explosion occurred, followed by a powerful shockwave that shook the entire Soul Lake. The shockwave was so intense that even the sky had turned into a dark void. It seems Zero Wing will still lose in the end. Verdant Rainbow sighed deeply as she looked at the magic mirror. It was indeed surprising that Zero Wing had a level 212, tier 6 personal guard hidden under its sleeve, but the Soul Lake Resurrection Camp's defenders were still weaker than the Holy Guard. Meanwhile, now that everyone in the Resurrection Camp had been annihilated, even if Zero Wing's main force members were still alive, the Resurrection Camp's defenders no longer had the ability to defend the camp over a long period. However, just as Verdant Rainbow was about to command her flying ship's pilot to leave the Soul Lake, the magic mirror before her suddenly revealed a figure standing amidst the void. How is this possible? Verdant Rainbow gaped in shock as she stared into the magic mirror. That's an attack that can repel an ancient god of the same level. How can he survive that? At this time, under the shattered sky, the Soul Lake Resurrection Camp could be seen perfectly intact. In fact, it wasn't just the Resurrection Camp that was in perfect shape. Even the Dragon Knight Los Merin looked no different from before. Attack! Before anyone could react to this unexpected turn of events, Blue Phoenix commanded Los Merin to retaliate against the Void Leviathan. In response, Los Merin summoned a spear into his hand and thrust it in the Void Leviathan's direction. At the same time, 3 magic arrays abruptly appeared above the Void Leviathan. Threefold Tier 6 Super Spell, Spirit Impact Spear. When the Void Leviathan saw the magic arrays above its head, it instinctively launched another breath attack with its 18 heads. However, it was too late to disrupt the magic array's formation as a molten spear clad in flames had already emerged from them. Then, the molten spear could be seen colliding with the dazzling miniature world created by the Void Leviathan. Boom! The molten spear passed through the Void Leviathan's miniature world unhindered. Then, it proceeded to strike the Void Leviathan out of the air and pinned it to the ground, the impact creating a crater that had a radius of tens of thousands of yards. Not only that, but the Void Leviathan also lost a huge chunk of its HP and 3 of its heads, becoming heavily injured. As for the remaining 15 heads, fear colored their eyes as they looked up at Los Merin. So strong. He heavily injured a level 193 Void Leviathan in one hit. Crap. What rank is that personal guard? The various spectating powers were shocked when they saw the heavily injured Void Leviathan. It should be known that a level 193 Void Leviathan was stronger than even level 200, tier 6 gods. Yet, it fared no differently than a lizard before Los Merin. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 3669, Chapter 743, Trump Card. Chapter 3669, Chapter 743, Trump Card. Chapter 743, Trump Card. Why isn't the Void Leviathan recovering? What did that personal guard do? Don't tell me that's a legendary personal guard. A series of questions popped into 19th Sword's mind as he spectated the battlefield from his tent. Others might not know how powerful Void Leviathans were, but not 19th Sword. As someone who frequently operated around the boundaries of the Void Sea, 19th Sword was no stranger to Void Leviathans. He had even personally traded blows with them before. As the first gatekeeper of the Void Sea's borderland, Void Leviathans not only possessed strength that could strike fear into ancient gods of the same level, but they also possessed a frightening recovery ability that could let them outlast ancient gods of the same level. Under normal circumstances, even a level 210, tier 6 god could not heavily injure a level 193 Void Leviathan in one hit. On the contrary, the level 210, tier 6 god was more likely to run out of steam before they could kill the level 193 Void Leviathan. Hence, 19th Sword couldn't help but be dumbfounded when he saw a measly level 212 personal guard heavily injuring a level 193 Void Leviathan. Guild leader, how many more secrets are you still keeping from us? On the battlefield, fervent Samsara and heavy Abyss couldn't help but turn to look at Shafong when they saw Los Merin's performance. The two of them were among the first batch of 5th floor experts to join Zero Wing in the Crystal City of Secrets, so they could be considered veteran internal members already. They had also watched Zero Wing grow from nothing to its current state in the Crystal City, so they could confidently say that they understood Zero Wing very well. However, after arriving at the World Arc and witnessing the series of events that had taken place up until this point, they suddenly felt incredibly foreign toward their own guild. First, it was the batch of mysterious tier 6 experts. Next, there were the frightening Silverwing flying ship and advanced dark gold combat puppets. Now, it was a level 212, tier 6 personal guard who could heavily injure an existence rivaling level 193 ancient gods. No matter how they thought about it, these were not things that the guild they had watched develop should possess. Advanced epic? No, that's not right. He's a legendary guard. Daystar's 3 purple eyes turned a little gloomy as she looked at Los Merin. A legendary personal guard. Based on her knowledge, only a personal guard who was at the legendary rank could possibly accomplish such a feat. However, among the holy race, personal guards with such exceptional growth potential were incredibly scarce and considered invaluable assets. Powers that possessed legendary personal guards typically avoided deploying them unless in dire straits, out of apprehension of losing them in combat. The Sun Dynasty was no exception, hence the absence of its legendary personal guards in the Eternal Realm. Of course, the primary reason for their absence was that personal guards of level 200 and above were prohibited from entering the Eternal Realm. Yet, now, a small human guild with neither fame nor history was actually willing to put a legendary guard to battle in the Eternal Realm. Not only that, but this legendary guard was even level 212. You've guessed correctly. He is indeed a legendary guard, Shafong said, chuckling when he saw Daystar furrowing her brows. What do you think? Is the trump card I prepared effective against the Holy Guard? Daystar, the Arbiter of Death. She was a well-known holy child of the Sun Dynasty. Out of the Sun Dynasty's 14 holy children, she was also the likeliest to become the next guild leader. Even in his previous life, Shafong would have to steer clear of her. Honestly, Shafong was quite surprised to encounter Daystar so soon. Without the harvest from the Godslayer's treasury, defending the Soul Lake Resurrection Camp would have been impossible, and Zero Wing's foundations might have even been endangered. Fortunately, the Arbiter of Death's timing was poor, or Shafong would have suffered a huge loss. So what if you have a legendary guard? Daystar glanced at Shafong, paying no heed to his provocation. The Holy Guard's might is beyond your comprehension. As Daystar spoke, many Holy Guard members on the battlefield suddenly formed six-person parties and merged their holy auras with their respective party leaders. Shortly thereafter, these Holy Guard members died one by one, while the party leaders who received their holy auras experienced a meteoric rise in strength, quickly rivaling taboo-level existences. Death Reborn. Shifeng remained unfazed, looking like he had long anticipated this development. Combination Holy Art, Death Reborn. Death Reborn was a combination holy art that sacrificed 5 players with holy auras of roughly equal standards to massively strengthen a player's holy aura and attributes. It was one of the Sun Dynasty's well-known trump cards in Shifeng's previous life. It was also why the Holy Guard could become one of the Sun Dynasty's 5 conquest legions in the Eternal Realm. You know quite a lot. Daystar looked at Shifeng in surprise. Death Reborn was one of the Sun Dynasty's secrets that was known by few, even among the Holy Race's various powers. In a situation where the human race and Holy Race were not on familiar terms, it should logically be impossible for a human player to learn of Death Reborn. I only know a little, Shifeng said, chuckling. Then, he snapped his fingers and continued, since the other side is getting serious, it's time for you all to stop hiding and fight them seriously as well. Fight seriously? Everyone couldn't help but look at Shifeng in shock, failing to comprehend what Shifeng was saying. Were Zero Wings members still not fighting seriously? Ha ha ha. I've been waiting for these words. Sinful Flame, who had been fighting against 2 of the Holy Guard's vice-commanders, revealed an ecstatic look when he heard Shifeng's words. You two have been having a lot of fun using all your techniques on me, haven't you? Well, it's this old man's turn now. As soon as Sinful Flame finished speaking, his aura started to skyrocket in intensity, as if he had transformed from a slumbering beast into an awakened dragon. His black cloak was shredded into countless pieces under the pressure of his frightening aura and mana, revealing his personal information to all. Sinful Flame, level 218. Ha! I wanted to spar with them a little longer, Melancholy, the former guild leader of 13 Thrones, said and sighed. Similar to Sinful Flame, he stopped suppressing his aura and mana, causing his low-quality black cloak to become shredded. Melancholy, level 217. How dare you old fellows complain? At least you got to fight 1-on-2 all this time, Ji Luorong said as she sent a dissatisfied glance at Sinful Flame and Melancholy. As she said so, she, too, stopped hiding her strength. Ji Luorong, level 212. Upon receiving Shifeng's command, Phoenix Rain and the 13 other Tier 6 players from Shifeng's home god's domain stopped hiding their aura and mana, revealing their true levels. All of them were above level 200. Moreover, aside from Crimson Mist, everyone else was at level 210 or above. The auras and mana they radiated were also stronger than Tier 6 gods of the same level. 13 level 210 plus god-ranked experts. Heavens! Is Zero Wing playing a joke on us? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,